In this video with the AnKing, I'm going to go over how to learn about residency programs as you're interviewing with them. Like, what kinds of questions should you be asking? If you want help with any of this residency process, writing your personal statement, interviewing any of this stuff, we'd be happy to help. We have a whole team of people. We've been through this process. We did it well. We all matched. We'd be happy to help. You can check out any of these social media channels as well. So general tips that will help you get in. I just have a few, and then I'm going to show you a document that I have that'll help you with kind of what questions to ask and get you going there. The first thing I would tell you is take way more notes than you think you need. I went back multiple months later and was like, crap, what I just didn't remember anything. Take notes on everything that you possibly can, especially if you're doing virtual interviews. It's very easy because you have access to all of that stuff, right? So it's pretty straightforward. You can get it all done. Get a resident's contact information. Get their email, their phone number, ideally. Maybe even get multiple. Find someone who you think you'd connect with well, or who likely is the type of person that is like you. So for me, I have a little baby, I have a wife. I tried to find people who were in a similar situation and contact them and ask them what their experience was like at the programs, because they were likely to have a similar experience to me. Whereas other people cared a lot more about, they were single, they wanted to go out and hang out with friends and stuff, and so it was different. So find the person that's kind of like you, get their contact information so that you can talk to them later and ask the real questions, which is my next tip here. Ask the real questions at the right time. When you're in the interviews, you have to be strategic about how you ask the questions. There are definitely real questions that you should be asking, but there are other questions that you might want to ask. Things like, how many hours are you working a week? Kind of searching for, are there any malignant things or negative things to the program? Generally, the residents are going to be the right ones to ask about that, but you want to ask it at the right time. So I'll go over that in just a second as I show you all of the questions that you should be thinking about. All right, so if you go to our website here, I've put all of this in a folder to make it easy for you. So it's under the downloadable content stuff. If you go here, there's a whole folder for stuff that's from this playlist. You'll find the questions to ask residency programs. There's a huge document I put together for you. And it has tons of questions to ask them. I even broke it down by what are things that you could specifically ask the program director, things that you should ask the residents that are maybe a little more of the quote-unquote real questions, things that, like for prelim programs, if you're like me, you're doing a prelim year, you might have a little bit different questions because it's not your ultimate destination. And then these are derm-specific questions that were just as an example, but this does show you how specific you should get. For example, they're asking, how many excisions do you complete as the primary surgeon as a first-year resident? It's very specific as opposed to asking, what's your procedural experience like? You might get iffy questions and you might not be able to truly evaluate what the program is like. So a lot of things right here that just give you a very specific example. Of course, you're never going to ask all of these questions about programs, but it should be in the back of your mind how this is going. Things that I think are really helpful is you want to know how to strategically phrase things. For example, a question to ask the program director, things that like, what are you most proud of in your program is a really good way to talk about things. You might say, what sort of changes have you made, or what sort of ways have you responded to resident feedback, as a way to find out how willing are they to address changes in the program. You might say, what is something that you really want to change about the program? That's a way to evaluate the negative things without saying, what's your program's weaknesses, and being that blunt about it. You can kind of beat around the bush. And anyway, there's a lot of good ways to phrase those questions as you're in the interviews. And then when you're in the resident sessions, or you're calling them afterwards, that's when you can ask things about I think the cost of living, what's it like as a family, how many hours are you working, what's the call like. You should definitely be asking about call, you should be asking about protected academic time. All of those things are going to be really important to ask the residents and what their experience is like. Then you can get the real feel for what the program is like. I was going to show you a couple things. So I had this Notion document here. A lot of people have asked me to duplicate this and make it available to you. I just don't know how to clean it up and make it look good because it's really messy. But I was going to show you what I did basically for when I was interviewing. So Danville, this is where I actually matched. We'll change this here and pop it open. So this is what I did, is I made a lot of things that I could note down, like who are contacts that I have, what's the charting system, do you get food, do they have Dragon, all things that I felt like were helpful, the program or the personal statement that I customized for that program, and then I copied this template into basically every program, and that was because this was questions that I had thought about that I wanted to ask every program. And then of course I customized it before I had the actual interview. I would work and make sure I was ready. But basically I wrote down like who are my contacts, I wrote down people's information, and then there's a presentation at almost every place. I generally screenshotted things that I felt like were helpful. I would recommend doing that just so you can remember later. Don't share them because they don't want you to share them. And then I wrote down details about the curriculum, what the call is like, all sorts of stuff. And then any benefits, like with the resident Q&A, so all of these checkboxes were things that I had on this template before going into the interview. And then as I was getting asked questions, I would check them off when I felt like I knew what the answer to those were, and I would write information in there. Anyway, and then like anything I felt like was useful, I screenshotted in there. Take more notes than you think you need. And then my overall impression, I wrote like at the very end of the interview, I just went and wrote, what's my emotional feeling about this program. I also wrote down some of the interview questions I was asked to help you guys out. So if you haven't seen the video on interviewing, that's what this is for. General things, and then I wrote down questions to ask and highlighted things that I felt like were more important. So all sorts of stuff. I did the exact same thing with my prelim years. See if we can find Danville where I'm currently at. There we go. Oh, this is Danville Peds. Let's see. This might work. Danville. All right. Well, you can see the general thing. Same thing. Questions to ask. Who are my contacts? What's the curriculum like? Find the one. This is where I'm actually at. Okay. So if I show you where I'm actually at, so this is like, what's the charting system? Is there money for like free food? What's the salary like when you're doing a prelim interview? You care a lot more about those things. What's the curriculum like? What's your day like on each of the rotations? What are the benefits? All sorts of stuff. So I wrote down everything and anything I thought would be helpful. If I felt like somebody was a super cool person, this was an incredible interview that definitely played a role in me coming here. And anyway, I just wrote down everything. So that's what I would recommend in terms of asking residencies questions. And with that, good luck. I know it's an exciting season. Thanks for learning with the AnKing. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel here, as well as follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Patreon. That is at AnKingMed. Also, feel free to reach out via email or check out our website, ankingmed.com, for more tips and tricks.